Welcome to Recap Our Studio.
Adeline is her given name. She has lived 107 years and has hardly shown any signs of aging. A woman would have to uproot her life every decade, alter her identification, and stop dating if she wanted to preserve the secret. Later on, however, she runs across her former love, William. She is to migrate in the following 10-year cycle, and now Adeline is nearing the end of her own life, requiring her to have a new identity, a new work, and a new place to call home. Say, a farm in Oregon, far from the hustle and bustle of San Francisco. Aiming to see her schemes through, the lady visits a vendor of fake identification papers and buys a passport, driver's license, and other vital forms of identification. Concurrently, Adeline makes various observations that disclose the merchant's true identity and provide helpful suggestions, such as reminding him to bring autographed baseballs. She's aware of how even seemingly innocuous actions might reveal the existence of fresh identification. Adeline goes back to her empty apartment, where she finds just her dog waiting for her. Since she has nobody else to speak to, the lonely lady shares her ambitions to leave town and start a farm with the animal. Time to report for duty at the public library. When Adeline flags down a cab, she impresses the driver with her extensive knowledge of the city, prompting him to joke that the two of them should trade roles for a day. A woman's workday will be punctuated by a pleasant surprise. Fold films are being digitized and need to be sorted, packaged, and sent off. Instead of packing the cassettes, Adeline puts one in an ancient movie projector and watches the black and white frames and pages of newspapers whiz by, reminiscing about the good old days. In the first minute of the new year, a baby girl is born in San Francisco, and one of them writes a little message about it. In the year 1908, Adeline Bowman was born. At first glance, the library's secret keeper wasn't much different from the average patron. She was born more than a century ago in San Francisco, where she subsequently married, had a daughter named Fleming, and then became a widow while on the road to see her parents. Adeline was trapped in a snowstorm, unusual for California at this time of year, and she ended up falling in the river. Adeline almost died from hypothermia-induced hypoxic shock, but a lightning bolt revived the car and brought her back to consciousness. And it got to the point when something miraculous happened: the lady stopped aging. Her appearance and physical form stopped evolving as she got older. For the first few years after giving birth to her daughter, Adeline continued her old lifestyle, enjoying the long lightning and attributing her good health and appearance to good eating habits, genetics, and regular exercise. She even kept up her hilarious banter with her old schoolmates, assuring them that she uses a mysterious cream from Paris and delighting in the fact that she and her daughter are often mistaken for sisters. When the officer who pulled Adeline over for a minor infraction confiscated her license and told her he would return it after she produced proof of her identity, she was not amused. The police officer makes sense since Adeline is listed as 45 on her driver's license, but you won't think she's more than 29. Having never before left her hometown, the lady takes a work as a secretary at a hospital in an effort to pinpoint what is wrong with her. No matter how hard Adeline looks, she just can't seem to find the answers to her problems. On her way home from work one day, however, the lady still draws the attention of the authorities when she is stopped by two guys impersonating as FBI investigators and shoved into a vehicle without door handles and transported to the airport. There is talk of experimentation, according to the guys. Adeline, however, is not the kind to give up without a fight. She escapes her captors by destroying her car seat, climbing out the trunk, and running away barefoot. Since then, Adeline has lived a nomadic existence, never settling down with anybody and only seldom seeing her daughter, who has taken on her grandmother's appearance and a dog of the same breed. She did a lot of traveling throughout the course of her lengthy life, but she kept coming back to San Francisco. This evening, Adeline walked every block and spoke more than 4 languages fluently. Adeline and her blind pianist companion make their way across the Grand Hall on their way to a New Year's celebration. Adeline looks up and notices a picture of herself from the 1950s hanging on the wall. A nice guy at the party approaches Adeline, but she politely and boldly rejects him. Stubbornly, Ellis enters the elevator and starts talking to Adeline, who he thinks is beautiful. He then proceeds to assist her find her way to her home. But no, she remains unconvinced. The mother eventually locates her daughter and begins her search for a suitable nursing facility. To Adeline, who had envisioned a life on a farm with Fleming, this news is particularly painful to comprehend. So, you'll have to take the dog with you and travel on your own. Adeline has to continue her term at the library for now, until Ellis emerges out of nowhere. Ellis is a rich and philanthropist who gave the city a unique collection of books. Again, the guy entices Adeline for a date by playing out demands or funny extortion, but he succeeds only when he promises to take her somewhere she has never been before. Somehow, during construction, the workers stumbled into a cave full of old ships, and now it serves as a sewer. Ellis impresses Adeline and gets her to laugh with an off-the-cuff joke, so they decide to go on another date. Despite this, Adeline is making preparations to leave and visit the bank. She plans on assuming a new identity in order to have access to more exciting activities. The second time out with Alice is much better than the first. They hit it off and are able to discuss a wide range of issues. The guy says he stared at Adeline for quite some time as she was reading on the library stairs. However, they hesitated to meet one another for quite some time. The female protagonist is on the fence about allowing herself to become romantically involved. She interrupts Alice's first kiss and takes control of the discussion. The night's enticing ambience is sufficient, however. They decided to spend the night together. Adeline's cab pauses momentarily in front of a park bench on the way to her house each morning, prompting the lady to reflect about the day she saw her soulmate waiting for her on that seat but was too afraid to approach him. Adeline's eyes fill with tears as she realizes that she is not yet ready to tell anybody at home the truth about herself, and that this revelation will bring forth additional anguish for a lady. Tragically, her beloved toy spaniel has become unwell and will soon be put to sleep. Adeline sobs uncontrollably as she says goodbye to her pet, and when she finally gets back home, she places his picture next to the others in the book where she keeps mementos of all her previous pets. When Alice brings a flower to Adeline's residence, Adeline warns her that she and the guy will never be happy together and sends her packing. At odds with her daughter, who insists that her mother call it quits on the marathon she's been running for hours on end. She claims that she will never experience genuine affection since real love requires that two people age together. Fleming, however, succeeds in persuading her mother, and she visits Workforks to petition for a second chance. Now it's Adeline's time to use her imagination, so she and her date visit a decrepit movie theater where automobiles have been placed in place of seats and the ceiling is covered with illuminating star constellations. The two are becoming closer, each permeated by the other's love for them. Now that Ellis has found his chosen one, he feels it is time to bring her to his parents. They leave town with the man's sister, Kiki, a free-spirited young lady who doesn't have a car and gets about by hitchhiking. The girl accepts her brother's girlfriend on principle, and things seem to be going swimmingly. Adeline faces a challenge from destiny, however, when Alice's father William recognizes her as the woman he once loved. Thankfully, Adeline soon grasps the situation and explains that her name is Jenny, as it is on the papers, and that William knew her mother, who passed away 6 years ago. Ellis's father, overcome with probing memories, continues to speak about Adeline the next day, remembering how intelligent and lovely she was and how she persuaded him, at the age of 26, to abandon his studies as a doctor in favor of his beloved astronomy. The situation escalates to the point that Kathy's wife creates an ugly scene out of envy, insisting that her husband married her only because she was a cheap substitute for his gorgeous ex-girlfriend Adeline. The guy comforts his wife with a drawing, assuring her of his undying love and pointing out that they have been married for 40 years already. At night, William's family plays Fun Facts, a game he loves and never loses. Adeline used to be clueless about everything, but now she can answer any question you throw at her. The laughing man concedes defeat, and the children make light of the fact that their father's prophecy about the emergence of this situation has come true. Even if you name a plane after a distant cousin who never showed up, it will take flight every night. When Adeline walks outside for some air, she runs across William, who she questions about why he named the comet after her mother. She has cracked the code and discovered that a distant relative had nothing to do with the naming of the comet. The father of Alice reveals that he had planned to propose to Adeline before she vanished. While William stands outside considering what Adeline has said, she returns inside and tells him that her mother adored him. Adeline visits Alice in her room and gives her a hug, telling her that it may be too soon for him to say it, but he loves her very much and cannot see his life without her. When she's in his arms, the lady becomes numb. She is aware that she gave in to her emotions and developed a strong relationship with Ellis, but this realization has not dispelled her fear. Adeline wants to hit stop on life and give staying with this guy a go, but things aren't that easy. William is astonished to run into Adeline in the morning after she went for a stroll, and he asks her not to lie to him when he finds a scar on her arm from a wound he placed sutures in. She starts off hesitant, but eventually spills the beans. William is shocked, but he understands Adeline's dread and has one request: please don't run away again. A woman who never faces her fears in her whole life is not living. On the other hand, Adeline has reached a point where she can no longer break her routines. Before William can stop her, she runs through the woods to the home, grabs her bag, writes a message to Alice, and runs out the door. Her father then runs after her and asks Ellis if he is sure he is in love. William tosses the vehicle keys out the window as the son firmly answers that his existence has no purpose without Adeline. Having come to terms with her feelings for Ellis, the runaway lady is now ready to come out of hiding. She pulls over and makes a phone call to her daughter to break the news. When she attempted to turn around, another vehicle lost control and slammed into Adeline's car, sending it careening into the ditch. Is that all there is to it? If a woman finds real love, does it mean she must inevitably die? At the same moment as it begins to snow, a woman's body goes into a state of suspended animation as her heart stops beating and Adeline stops breathing from hypothermia. Only an electrical discharge stands between us and a replay of the scenario from 80 years ago, and Ellis, who has come too late to prevent it, can do nothing about it. The medical staff, however, was able to place electrodes on Adeline's chest, resynchronize her pulse, and restore her vital signs. When Adeline comes to in the hospital, she tells Alice all that happened and declares her love for him. A year later, Adeline and Alice and his daughter are taking their new pet, a spaniel puppy, to a New Year's Eve celebration in Adeline's previous apartment. Adeline stares at her reflection for a long time and experiences a moment of disbelief at the sight of her gray hair. The lady is struggling to figure out how she feels. Adeline says loudly, "I'm good," when Ellis asks in the corridor whether she's alright.